Hello everyone, this is Shorty here with a recap and review of Interview with the Vampire, Episode 2, After the Phantoms of Your Former Self. So I'm recording this having just watched the episode for once, so hopefully I won't get interrupted and will remember stuff better. So we start off with Daniel about to sit down for dinner, and the assistant is there again, not answering any questions. I'm still not entirely sure who this guy is. I heard his name is apparently Rashid or something, so he's like a different character. And not necessarily from the books. At least I don't remember that character from the books. Could be a book I didn't read. But he has a glove on, and I kind of noticed that. There's also a reference to Marius, in that Louis has a painting by him. I believe that's supposed to be the vampire Marius. I don't remember his last name off the top of my head. And we also learned that the building apparently sways, and that's the creaking Daniel keeps hearing, and that's kind of creepy. So Daniel sits down for dinner, and it's like, Louis will join you at course 7. And it's like, how many freaking courses are there? Which is what Daniel says, but like, seriously, 7 courses? And all these are like little tiny restaurant courses, you know, like just ridiculously little food. Though if they're 7 plus, it kind of makes sense. There's a really elaborate setup going on at the other end of the table. Though, like they're putting like saran wrap down, and they got this like blood scale thing. I don't know what they're doing over there. It's really weird. And one of the meals they give Daniel is like this little tiny pig, and it's like, what the heck is this? It's very disturbing. I don't think I could eat that. So we flash back to right after the killing of the priests, and Louis and Lestat are taking them into the graveyard, and they hide them in like a tomb thing, like in a coffin tomb, so like their bodies won't be found. And I think that's really sad, especially if it turns out they are actually innocent, because like not only do they die, but no one's ever going to find their bodies or get to mourn them. And Louis is losing his mind. He is like high as a kite. Like, I don't know what it's like being high, but I imagine it would be what Louis is going through right now. Like, his eyes are unfocused. He's seeing, like, double or whatever. It's very weird. It's just him during this scene is so bizarre. And then there's a line where he's like, I could feel Lestat's blood giggling inside me. And it's like, what the frick are you talking about? So, eventually, Lestat and Louis are walking down the street after Louis has come off of the high, and they're going to get some more food for Louis. There's also a pink building with like green window shutters. I really like the design of that. Just kind of had to throw that out there. They go to a bar, and Louis is way more eager to kill in this than I remember him ever being in the movie. And he's like eyeing this sailor, and I'm kind of glad when Lestat talks him out of it, but then he focuses on this poor salesman guy who has a daughter, and he's talking about his daughter and her pony, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't want this man to die. And like, Louis comes off as a very different character here. He's certainly not hesitant to kill. This is not just him giving in to bloodlust. He's totally on board with this and not showing any signs of hesitation. And they invite the man home to talk about tractors, and it takes the man way too long to notice all of the blood on Lestat's slave. And they kill the poor guy, and again, I feel terrible. And then afterwards, they have the scene where, from the last week's promo, where Louis pushes Lestat, and he, like, flies mid-push or whatever. It's a bit of a weird scene. So apparently they're trying to say that Louis does feel some remorse. I don't know that it's as convincing. So daylight happens, and Louis like, oh, I need to get home, and Lestat's like, that might be difficult, but doesn't feel the need to mention, like, hey, sunlight burns us, and he just lets Louis leave, does not even wait by the door. Louis is walking through the sunlight, and apparently the sunlight does not immediately kill you. So he's, like, walking, like, the buildings have, like, coverings in front of them, so he's going in and out of shade, and his skin is burning, and he's ripping his shirt off, and he pours milk all over himself. It is a very bizarre scene. It's just so weird. And he ends up banging on the gate to get Lestat to let him in, and Lestat does, but it takes so long. It's like, why would you let any of this happen? And Lestat does say, like, I should have told you, and it's like, yeah, you really should have. Like, he could have killed him. And Lestat's got all this kind of crazy vampire technology. Like, he got, like, a button he presses, and it makes, like, a sun window close. I don't know why there's a sun window to begin with. And then he has, like, another thing that makes the wall turn, and they find the secret coffin room. And I kind of find myself wondering, why are coffins a thing? Like, I know there's some vampire lore where vampires have to sleep in coffins. How does that work here? Because one of the other reviews of the first episode I watched mentions that vampires would, like, collapse during the day, like they couldn't function at all, which is obviously not the case here. But, like, why do they have to sleep in coffins? Could they theoretically not just sleep in a bed? I wouldn't want to sleep in a coffin. But, anyway. So, they're going to share a coffin in this one, and Lestat takes off all his clothes and gets in the coffin. I'm not sure why he's doing this. Like, do you normally sleep in the nude, Lestat? Lestat probably does. Doesn't really shock me, but it's still a really strange scene. And then we get back to the dinner. Louis has joined Daniel, and he drinks the blood, and then his next course is moving, and they take off the lid of the dish, and it's this poor tied up little fox thing, and it's all cute, and it's like, this is terrible. Like, you feel so bad for this animal. And like, Daniel kind of calls him out on it, like, the fact that he's just killing this animal. And then Louis throws out a line where he's like, do you ever think of the rabbit before you cut into it or whatever? And this reminds me of a scene from a vampire book I have been looking for, because I thought it was the vampire, because I read a vampire book when I was a teenager that had a character based on the lead character from the vampire. So I went to read that, but I've recently learned that the vampire does not end like that. So, like, it ended with, like, the sister of the main character who was targeted by the vampire, like, impaling him with a harpoon, which for an old book is pretty hardcore for a female character. And he had a line like that where he was trying to attack some human woman, and the vampire, the human protagonist, stopped them and was like, you know, do you ever think of the chicken before you eat it or whatever? Yeah, someone's knocking, so I may have to end this recording soon and try to merge it together. So, yeah, there might be an awkward cut here. I hope I'm able to merge these files without much issue. I had so much trouble trying to make the last video, like you don't know. For some reason it would not save properly, and I was trying to do some editing, and it was just a disaster. And I had problems, like, with the audio, too. But, yeah, so I got interrupted. We were still homeless here. We'd actually just narrowly missed out on getting what would have been a great place, which super sucks. So, yeah, can't find that vampire book. Let me know in the comments if you know what it is. Anyway, where are we at? Oh yeah, the eating of the animal. And this scene was weird to me because it seems like really bad manners, like you're just murdering an animal in front of your dinner guest. Like, most people would be uncomfortable with that. And just, like, in general, Louis feels like a lot more of a villain, both in the present and in the past. We jump back to the past where Lestat is telling Louis about mind reading, and he reads the mind of a woman who's like, it's not cheating if it's with a woman, I can't get pregnant. It's like, yeah, that's a thought. And then they have Lestat drop the title. We get a commercial break where we have a trailer for the Mayfair Witches. I'd actually kind of seen this trailer already. I wasn't super paying attention to it. They make a big deal about how it's the television premiere of the trailer, but the trailer has already been released online. And I had only ever read the first Mayfair Witches book. Apparently they get really, like, dark and messed up, so I wonder how they're going to do a TV series based on that. I'll just say I like the key necklace that the main character has. I don't know if I'm going to watch the Mayfair Witches, because if it does deal with the same themes as the books, I think it might be a little too uncomfortable. But anyway, so we get back to the show, and apparently there's a time skip, because Louis, like, returns home, and the mom's like, oh, you've moved out, and you haven't been back in, like, a year or something. Like, it's been a while. He reads his mom's mind, and it's a bit disapproving of his new appearance. Like, he gets his nails done, and he's wearing these fancy sunglasses, but I don't really think she's hiding her disapproval that much, so how upset are you, really? We also meet Grace, and I still continue to hope she survives, and she's apparently pregnant with twins, Louis is able to figure out. And they have this kind of odd scene sometime after this little reunion where Louis is talking with, like, a businessman guy about that deal from the first episode about opening up some brothel place or whatever. And, you know, the guy's a bit disapproving. Like, he's not, like, mean or anything, but he clearly doesn't think much of Louis because that's pretty common in the time period. And he's friendly enough, but Louis is just kind of at his breaking point. and gets, like, really angry. And he has this weird line of dialogue where he talks about this organ that black men have. And I'm just like, what the frick are you talking about? So if someone could explain to me what that organ is supposed to be. But yeah, so he decides he has to run and kill this man who honestly was not really mean to him. Like, he didn't, like he was a fairly typical dude for the time who thinks black people are beneath him, but he wasn't, like, nasty or anything, so it's like, you choose to kill him. But yeah, Louis just goes and kills him. And I think this is a stupid kill, because you're doing business with this man, so him dying can only inconvenience you. And at least Lestat calls him on this, and they kind of argue. And then we have another weird kind of line from Louis, because Lestat in this keeps calling Louis fledgling. And Louis is like, fledgling, that sounds a lot like slave, and he's all mad, and it's like, does it though? Because, like, fledgling is a pretty common name to refer to, like, someone who is new to something, which Louis is new to being a vampire. You know, he's still learning the ropes, even though we had some kind of time skip, so I don't know. But that's a thing. And during this, Louis says something, not Louis, Lestat says something in French, I don't know what he says. So we cut to the two of them in their little coffins, and Louis's coffin is smaller than Lestat's coffin, and I half expect Louis to make a fit about that, like, oh, you're disrespecting me by having a bigger coffin? Like, what the heck? And Louis has a weird top on. It's a very strange pattern. Then we have another time skip, 5 years, and Louis goes to visit his sister, apparently for the first time, so she had the twins, and now she has a new baby, Benjamin, and it's the baby from the trailers, the one that we all want to know if Louis is going to eat it. And we have this, like, kind of, I don't know if it's a full jump back to the present, but, like, we like, learn about, like, how he killed the fox and whatnot. Like, he says something contradictory. My mind is failing me right now. Oh yeah, he says, like, I have learned to control my impulses, I don't kill, and it's like, you killed that fox. So, yeah, and of course, Daniel was like, did you kill the baby? Because he was doing the fang thing, because the sister left the room to check on the twins, and he was, like, all fanging out with the baby. And it's like, did you kill the baby? And Daniel asks him this, but he keeps avoiding answering, which is never a good sign. And he talks about the connection all vampires have and how he can hear their thoughts and whatnot. And that just sounds really convenient to me. He has a guy named Damek for dinner who just casually talks with Daniel while some of his blood is getting drained. Like, it's not enough to kill him, but it's a really weird scene. Like, why would you do this at dinner with someone? And why does it not hurt at all? Where does Louis find these people? I guess he's running around mind reading people and finding out who has weird kinks or whatever. Not saying that that's necessarily a weird kink, but yeah. So Daniel keeps asking him, did you kill the baby? And the sister is, like, leaving the twins, and she hears the baby cooing, and she seems oddly concerned when the baby is cooing, and then the baby finally starts, like, shrieking and crying, and then she runs downstairs. Her worry before that seemed weird. And she rushes downstairs, baby's on the floor, Louis is gone. And I'm just wondering, like, why is the baby on the floor? Like, did he just sit the baby there? Did he throw the baby there? I feel like the baby should probably be hurt if he was thrown there. But the baby is at least alive, so good for him. I was right. As of now, anyway. So Lestat takes Louis to the opera, because Louis is distressed, because he almost killed his nephew. And Lestat takes him to the opera, but Lestat is very mad, because while the female singer is really good, it's ruined when the male singer joins in for a duet with her, and he's not good. And Lestat, like, cuts himself and is putting blood on the music that he has with him. I don't know. It's very weird. And I gotta stress now that I was noticing that the time of this show is like over an hour. Like, it starts at 10:06, and then it's supposed to last till like 11:06 according to the TV guide thingy or whatever. But then it ends up lasting to like 11:24. So, yeah. But the next scene is just so awful. So, because it really seems like in this version they're doing away with Lestat allegedly only killing bad people. So he, like, brings this tenor in to their room, has him sing, and is, like, really, like, chipping away at his confidence. And then he ends up, like, cutting his neck in a way that, like, I guess damages his vocal cords, maybe. Like, at the very least, he can't call for help. And then, like, for, like, hours, he's, like, feeding on his blood slowly, and the guy is awake and aware the whole time, but can't call for help. And Louis is, like, reading his thoughts, and, like, about his life and all that, and it's really sad. And they have a scene that's in the movie where, like, Louis is calling Lestat out, like, why do you do this? And Lestat does the whole screaming thing, like, stop denying your nature. If you want them to die quick, then do it, but just kill them. And I feel like this scene worked better in the movie, because I tried to look it up. Because the scene with the two prostitutes in the movie, I don't remember if it took place before or after the plantation got burned. I just remember it felt more natural there. Because, like, here, we've had Louis telling Daniel that he did not take to killing, but he has showed very little hesitance in killing people. So it kind of rings hollow. And, yeah, I gotta say that, there's like, blood on the sheet paper, too, and no one calls attention to that, the music sheets, but who knows. Anyway, Lestat in this scene is such a jerk that, like, I'd be threatening to leave, honestly. Like, why are you so enamored with this man again? He doesn't feel even remotely attractive in this moment. I just want to ditch him and just be like, you know what, I'm out. Like, you want to scream at me that I need to be doing this or that? I'm just gonna leave. So, yeah. And then we cut back to the meal in the present where Louis has this really cute-looking strawberry dessert served that apparently Daniel mentioned in, like, his memoir or something, and it was, like, from when he proposed to his wife, and Louis can't taste it, but he's eating it anyway. And Daniel talks a bit about his wife and her weird eyebrow that he liked, and then ends the interview for that day. Kind of a nice scene to end it on. And not too much to say about the preview for the next episode. It seems like that's going to be when the burning stuff happens and Louis is forced to flee. I just hope the family makes it, mostly the sister. Don't super care about the mom. She doesn't seem as hateful towards her son as she was after Paul's death, but she's certainly not super friendly, and we don't see her after the 5-year time skip, but I would imagine she's not super happy with her son. So I'm still not sure how to feel about the changes to the characters. One thing I will give the show credit for is that they are actually doing things. Because a lot of these shows want to, try to pander by changing races or having these stereotypical strong female characters or having the men be idiots. And that's all that the show is, or the movie is, and it suffers for it. Here, yes, they have changed Louis' race, but they have actually made that part of the story. They've used it to make the character unique, and the story is the original story with some differences, so there is some surprise to what's happening, and we still have a more faithful adaptation in the movie. So at the very least, they're actually putting effort in, and not just using a bunch of buzzwords in hopes that people will like their show or be unable to complain about it. So I'm curious to see where this goes. I really want to get Claudia out of the story and see what they do with her. Like, I have read something that confirms she's supposed to be, 14. So it will be interesting to see what that does to her character, since she's, not going to really have the same thing of being stuck in a child's body, because, she's played by, an 18-year-old. Did I say all this during the last video? I might have. I don't remember. But anyway, I gotta end this here. So, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the episode, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!